everybody, it's Mrs. Behrens. I have your science lesson for Tuesday, November 10th today. Today in reading, you read an article called When Salt Isn't Safe. This article taught you about the uses of road salt, which is a really big topic in Minnesota because we get so much snow and ice, and our cities and counties all across the state use road salt to keep the roads safe for driving in the winter. The article that you read, however, gave you some information about why using too much salt can be bad for the ecosystems and what impact all of that salt can have on the plants and the animals of the ecosystems that they are introduced into. So today for science, we will be thinking about the potential impact of salt on our ecosystem. Remember that we have a control like this one that we are not touching, that we will compare our polluted ecosystems to. This one, though, is going to be polluted with salt. The salt that we put on the roads is the same as the salt that we use on our table. It's just made and sold in a different way. So in order to pollute this ecosystem, I am actually just going to use this table salt. However, similar to the way that the salt gets into the ecosystem in nature, I'm not just going to take this container and dump it into our ecosystem. The way that the salt from the roads gets into the ecosystems is through meltwater. When the snow and the ice melts, it runs down the roads and it brings that salt to the edge of the road and into the plants and toward the animals that may be in that area. So I am going to introduce this salt into our ecosystem through a solution of salt water. I have done my research and figured out approximately how much salt or how concentrated the salt is in the water on the sides of the road, and I made a mixture of table salt and water that is a similar concentration. So this salt water here is very similar to what you would find in like melted snow or melted ice at the edge of the road in Minnesota in the wintertime. I am going to introduce this salt water to our ecosystems, but just like we did yesterday with acid rain, we need to work through the scientific method. First, observe. We've been observing these ecosystems for a few weeks now, and you have been learning about the plants and the animals that are parts of the ecosystems. Next, what is our research question? What is this experiment trying to answer? The question that we have is, what happens to our ecosystem? What happens to our ecosystem when we introduce salt? A pretty concentrated mixture of salt and water. I'm going to be watering the terrarium with this mixture of salt water. That's how it will be introduced. So our question is just, what happens to these plants and animals when it gets watered with salt water? Step number 3 of the scientific method is think of a hypothesis. That means a prediction. Using what you know about our ecosystems and what you've learned about the pollutant, road salt, what do you think is going to happen when we introduce salt to this ecosystem? How will it impact the plants and animals and non-living parts of the ecosystem that we have here? And step number 4 is experiment. I am going to use a dropper to add salt water into our ecosystem so that I know I'm not adding too much. I want to make it as realistic as I can, so I'm going to be adding the salt water, slow and steady. Living in Minnesota, you could even use your own experience In the springtime, when you are walking or driving around in our communities, what do the edges of the roads look like? And what does the plant life and animal life look like in that area? All right. And that's about as much water as I give the ecosystem when I water it. So that is how much salt water I'm going to put in there for now. Once you have completed your hypothesis for this experiment using the template that's attached to this assignment, take a picture or a screenshot of what you have completed and submit it to this assignment in Schoology. We'll see what happens.